find in the wild. Things that look like this, your laptop batteries, they have these cells in them. Sometimes they're in a different form factor, which is a lithium polymer, but basically most battery cells that are in e-bikes, electric cars, laptops are going to be composed of lithium. Lithium is a chemical element. It's the lightest of the alkali metal group of the solid metals. It's only got 3 protons in its nucleus, so it's basically one of the lightest elements that's known to the human race. So it's very nice if it can be used in batteries, because batteries are heavy, and so it has a very nice weight to power ratio. There's a couple problems with this. Lithium is a little bit, you have to mine it, and it can be quite expensive, and a lot of the places where they do the mining have histories of environmental, not following environmental regulations, and also not following good human rights practices. So there's lithium mining operations in Argentina and Chile. This was very interesting to find out. There's allegations of corruption and tax avoidance and violating environmental regulations. The company was privatized under Pinochet's military dictatorship. For those that don't know, there was a brutal dictatorship in Chile for a long time. And apparently that person's former family, or that person's family, is still controlling some of the lithium mines. So you can imagine the human rights violations are quite terrible. In addition to that, the impacts of battery waste from lithium-ion batteries, 18650s, and similar stuff. There's this great article you can read up, and it's a nice little PDF you can download if you want to get really deep into that. And the waste stream of this stuff is really no joke, folks. Like, lithium batteries and batteries in general are just some of the most awful things going into our waste stream and not being properly recycled. Now, if you search this, you will not find much info on this, because Google and the other big tech companies are greenwashing their asses off to keep people from finding out about this stuff. And so you'll just see, sites like this, and, oh, we're saving the planet and free e-waste and everything's going to a happy home, when really it's not. It's going into junk piles like this. And there's a couple reasons why this is happening. One of the number one reasons, oh, by the way, here's a great article on e-waste in Australia. Anyway, there's a couple reasons why this is happening. The number one reason is, of course, corporate greed and violations of the environment, and basically patents. Just obsessions with patents, and the never-ending competing cycle of capitalism, where everyone's trying to outdo someone with a patent and some specialized feature. And the other problem is education. People are not informed on how to properly maintain and care for their batteries. There is an old wives' tale that I've been trying to get out of the social construct, like pee out of a swimming pool, which is that batteries should be run to 0. This is not true. Do not run modern batteries to 0, pretty please. Lithium ion and lithium polymer and LiFePO cells like to be cycled at lowest down to about 30%. So try not to let them go to 0, actually. If you want to prolong their lifespan, you can actually save a lot of time and money and landfill that way. The other thing is Apple. Apple Computers is one of the world's great polluters. In addition to making locked ecosystems and proprietary nonsense, there was a DEF CON presentation some years ago, I believe it was this one, which basically talked about the vulnerabilities in the battery systems of Apple MacBooks. And while it seemed innocent enough, and someone just wanting to get a little spotlight for their creative ingenuity, what it did is it set off a chain reaction in the industry that made all the battery manufacturers, being led by Apple, to lock down their batteries and make it so that you can't access their firmware. And so this presentation really kind of put the fear into people, because he was able to remotely hack into batteries and set them on fire and stuff like that. This was not something that was actually happening in real life. It was just something that made an interesting talking point. So after that happened, we got a lot more sophisticated battery technologies, primarily using the BQ Texas Instruments family of chips. Texas Instruments is a large chip manufacturer based in the United States that is pretty evil. They do a lot of chip manufacturing for the Department of Defense, and make chips that are used to kill people in war. I'm not a big fan of them, but also I'm not a big fan of them because they design these chips, which are specially designed to lock the firmware that they have basically in an encrypted offboard EEPROM so that you cannot access the battery pack without basically tripping this thing, and then it permanently kills the battery. It won't let it talk to your laptop. It won't let it talk to your e-bike, your scooter, whatever you're using. It's essentially like a suicide scheme, you know, kind of masked in the feel-good rhetoric of it's for your own good, it's for your own safety. That's not really it. It's that if these batteries die, you have to buy a new one, and it's profitable. And that's the planned obsolescence you might have heard about. If you want to learn about how to treat batteries better, check out this really great article. Battery University is a great website, and it'll give you all sorts of in-depth information on how you can do that. So moving forward to my project, I have a mobility scooter, basically like this, because I'm a person with disabilities, and I have to use these big, heavy lead-acid batteries. As you can see, they're really not cheap, and they have to be replaced at least every year, sometimes every 2 years. And what happens is the batteries are still good, but they can't get my wheelchair up the hill. They're just, you know, they still got some juice in them, but not enough to really carry me around town. So keep that in mind. Let me talk about the 18650s, the battery cells I've been talking, the lithium-ion batteries. Fortunately, there's now a market for making your own battery packs. This was not a thing when I was learning about this stuff in high school. And so they have now, you can get these spot welding kits. And basically you can take the battery cells out of your e-bike, out of your laptop, whatever, you rip them out. Because of the Texas Instruments controller chip, it won't talk to your laptop anyway. So it won't work for its original purpose. But you can take out the cells and you can recycle them if they're still good. You buy these nickel strips and then you do what's called spot welding. Now you can't just solder these to the batteries because lithium ion is volatile. It doesn't like heat. It will decrease its lifespan. And so what you want to do is give it instantaneous sparks of electricity, essentially, to weld in little points these nickel strips. This is the proper way to make a battery pack. So you need a welder to do that. Well, you're not going to invest in like a $1,000 TIG welder. You're going to want something like this that's like $38, and it's a little portable spot welder. And so you can buy these, which is great, except I bought something like this. I think it was this brand, the Kerpoo, but it doesn't matter. They're all just fake brands anyway. But you can get these little packs, and they sound really promising. This one's $50. They've got nice, big, thick copper probes, and even come with some little battery start kit kind of tools and materials. And how these are generating enough surge current is they're using lithium polymer batteries inside the case because there needs to be a large discharge current to create that spark so you can spot weld the tabs. It all sounds very nice, but those batteries are too small to effectively do anything for any period of time. Mine died in 6 months, and I took very good care of it. And that was really annoying. So I wanted to make something that was a lasting solution, and instead of buying a new product that's frankly overpriced and using more lithium-ion batteries that I don't need to be contributing to more waste because mine died in 6 months, I thought, how cool would it be if I could use my wheelchair batteries to make a spot welder? And so that's what I did. I made the wheelchair battery spot welder. And this is an open source project that I'm in the process of publishing that takes any old wheelchair or car battery and turns it into a useful spot welder to reuse batteries from your laptop, your e-bike, and things like that. I can show you really quick. When I was developing it, at first I didn't think I could get away. First I thought I could get away without using batteries. I really wanted to use just a power adapter from the wall. And so you can see I use this giant power adapter. This giant thing that looks like a can of beer is actually a huge capacitor that can deliver massive instantaneous current. With these two combined, I could still not do an effective spot weld. That's how much power it takes in a surge to do an effective spot weld. I tried this supply as well. This is a 60 amp supply. This didn't generate enough current either. And so I ended up making these 3D models and 3D printing basically parts for a case for a really cheap spot welder that you can buy online, and that's what this is right here. And so basically this is a kit where you just get the 2 probes, but you have to supply the power. And so I did everything else, including making these little covers, these little safety covers and mounts, and it's all pretty straightforward. I think almost anyone that has a 3D printer could make this without too much trouble. And of course, if you're disabled, you already have these batteries if you have one of the standard wheelchair scooters. And so you're basically recycling batteries to recycle batteries. And so what I ended up doing, if I can find my pictures, here's the making of. One of the first things I did was I had an old battery pack that I was able to take apart the batteries and professionally spot weld them like brand new. The other thing, this is some pictures of the 3D print and the case and everything that I made. And here is 3D modeling of the case for the spot welder. One thing that's really satisfying when you start doing your own 3D designs, you can make buttons that actually work and feel really nice. And the other thing that I did really quickly, one of the first use cases for this device was to fix something for my mechanic. So this is my mechanic. His name's Kevin. He's one of the nicest guys in the world. You should totally go to San Mateo and get your car fixed by him. And he had this thing, which was a diagnostic machine that he plugs into different cars. You know, Volvos, Mercedes, Toyotas, whatever, right? And this thing measures, it spits out the diagnostic codes, but it does it with a lot of detail that normal code reading devices don't actually have. And similar to the last talk, there's a bunch of proprietary stuff, there's a bunch of locked technology, and so he was going to be forced to buy a new one because the battery in this broke and it started swelling. And so I was able, well, that was a, let me mute that, sorry. So I went down to his shop, I took it apart and saw what was going on. I went home, I 3D printed a case, and I put some batteries in it, and then I was able to use my my new spot welder to weld on these strips. Notice I have the fire extinguisher right next to me to be very safe. This is my wheelchair battery spot welder. And I took it back to his shop, put it all back in the case, and now it works like new. He's been using it ever since. So that's the gist of my presentation. Spot welding batteries using a battery that was recycled from my wheelchair.